Hi YouTube, it's Emma Blue Eyes 10, and yep, as the title suggests, this is going to be my thoughts on the next ban list and next format. Bearing in mind this is actually coming from someone who hasn't actually duelled on this format, unfortunately, so I honestly have no experience or idea of what the format is actually like. But my thoughts on that are going to be based mainly from what I see on the ban list, from discussions we've done on the Chaos Conference podcast, and basically just from what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard. So yeah. But before we begin, just going to say a quick thank you and a big shout out to Dracortician84 and MaxWarrior72 because they got me this Rainbow Dragon mat. So expect to see this in my future duels and everything now. I'm still going to keep my Yugioh mat, because obviously she's the first mat I've ever had, and I love Yugioh, and I love Rainbow Dragon as well. So I'm going to be keeping. So as I said, expect to see this in future duels and that, everybody. But it's a beautiful mat. I really love it. So thank you so much, you two. I really do appreciate it, and I'm really happy. So thank you so much. Okay then, right. On to the ban listing for. Okay. Now, I think what I'll do is I'll start off with the typical meta cards that I've heard about and everything, and then I'll probably go on just create like themed deck cards, and maybe finally cards that are on the ban list and that could yo-yo swap around and stuff like that. So, okay, right, the typical meta cards. Well, I think the three main ones that I would think of would obviously be Pot of Duality, Effect Veiler, and Solemn Warning. Basically, the reason why I call these meta cards is because not all duelists, but some duelists say that you have to absolutely have them in the deck for the deck to win or to work. I say no, you don't actually. You don't need every single card like that to win. You can do it with other cards if you play it right. But anyway, yeah, Pot of Duality. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, pick one, send the rest back to the deck, shuffle, and then you can't special summon that turn. Apart from the downside where you can't special summon, which gives it a balance, just the ability to quote MaxWarrior72 to see 3 turns into the future can be game changing, I think, especially if you're running 2 or 3. Now mind you, I have 1 in my deck, but just 1. I think 1 is perfect enough for my deck, but if it starts to really cramp it up, then I will take it out and put it to the side until I think I need to use it again, basically. But just the ability to look at 3 cards and pick 1 can be game changing, especially if you play it late game, and basically, yeah, you can easily switch around a thing in a second if you get the right monster, get the right spell or trap. But if you play it quite early in the game, you're just trying to get ahead of your opponent, I believe, and I don't know if that really helps out. But of course, all these cards are about timing that, knowing when to use them correctly, but with 3, it's quite easy to use them very early or very late game to get a win, I would guess. So I would not be surprised if that's either semied or limited. I highly doubt it would be banned because it's balanced, I believe, you know, with the downside of not being able to special summon, because most decks and most monsters in that nowadays are special summoned with the synchros and everything. I mean, even my deck, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and even, well, not even the Rainbow Era, the Crystal Beast deck, both rely quite heavily on special summon. So it can be a downside for those kind of decks, but if you play it right, you can change things around in an instant, basically. So Pot of Duality, I believe, will either be semied or limited. I highly doubt banned, but if it is, I'd be very surprised. Next one, Effect Veiler. Basically, discard this card from the hand and you can negate the effect of a monster. Very useful against things like Dark Arm Dragon, even Bionic and that. Any effect monster can be stopped by this card. It's a level 1 tuner, I believe, as well. I would not be surprised if that's semied or limited as well. Highly doubt banned again, just because I think you can only use it during the main phase, I believe. Not entirely sure about that, mind you. As you can see, I've don't know very much about these cards. I know generally what they do, but not enough. But generally, because most effect monsters tend to have relatively high attack power. I mean, most are over 2000 attack, just from my experiences in that. Basically, just to stop the effect can be more of a defensive maneuver, in my opinion. It's not really to stop attacks or whatever, you know. So I would probably see it semied, more likely semied in honest truth, because well, it can just stop it doesn't destroy, but it can stop a Dark Armed Dragon or even a Judgment Dragon. But the problem is you still have that monster on the field unless you can take it down by battle or another spell or trap card. But there'd be no point in honest truth, just because you're discarding a card to negate a monster effect, and then if you use a spell or trap card, you're using 2 cards to get rid of 1 monster. So I would as I said, I'd probably see it semied, just because it can stop an effect, but only during the main phase. So it's slightly balanced, but again, as I said, I don't really know that very well, but that's my opinion anyway. And third card, Solemn Warning. Basically, you pay 2000 life points and you can negate a spell, trap or monster effect that special summons. And it's a counter trap as well. So it's right up there with Solemn Judgment, except you don't have to pay half your life points. Still a heavy cost though, 2000 life points. But the fact that it's more specific this time and it targets a special summon, I would not be surprised if that's limited, like Solemn Judgment. Hang on, just give me 1 second just to double check. That's Solemn Judgment. Yep, Solemn Judgment is limited. Yeah, I've got the ban list in front of me just for reference. Because although Solemn Judgment is named as the ultimate counter card, because it can negate anything, it's quite a heavy cost, but Solemn Warning's a bit more specific, so I would not be surprised if that is semied again or limited. I probably guess it might be limited, just because, as I said earlier, most decks rely on special summon, so using it at the correct time can really devastate the opponent. Also the fact is, the reason why I think it could be semied as well is just because there are lots of other cards that can easily negate special summons. I mean, there's that new monster in the new set, I think it's Chaos Hunter? Not too sure. We discussed it on the KCP, can't remember what it's called now. I think it's Chaos Hunter, but there's monsters in that can actually stop special summons in that as well. So, you know, as I said, there are loads of ways to stop special summons in that, no problem. I mean, Royal Oppression and everything as well, which you only have to pay 800 life points to do against the 2000 of a Solemn Warning, but the fact it's a counter trap means, you know, you can easily chain it quite a bit. So again, I would not be surprised if it's semied or limited, but I think it probably could be semied. But if it's not hit at all, I'd be very surprised. Okay, now themed card decks, or themed cards, sorry. Basically, I've heard that I would say the typical cards like Blackwing, Lightsworn, Frog Arts, Gravekeepers, and Six Samurais. Now, I've heard a lot about the Gravekeepers and Six Samurais recently, and we've also discussed this on the KCP as well. But I think the Six Samurai cards could possibly be hit, mainly Gateway of the Six, and just because it can special summon, draw cards and everything. It can do 3 actions in one go if you've got the right number of counters. And also all the typical warrior cards that could be used for Six Samurai, I believe they are still limited. Yep, they are. They're still limited, so that lowers the power of the deck significantly, but just the ability to swarm in that, I would not be surprised if the new Six Samurai cards are hit by the ban list, like there's only one of this monster, or one of this monster, or 2 of this monster, or something like that. I would not be surprised. But because they're so powerful at the moment, as I said, they probably could be hit. And Six Samurais were quite annoying when they didn't have these power-ups, in honest truth, because I used to do a friend of mine, Yugioh, down in Cornwall, he used to run Six Samurais, and they were a nightmare to get around, and that deck wasn't even properly completed, and it was a nightmare to get around it. And Gravekeepers, basically with all the new Gravekeeper cards and that have been coming up, I would not be surprised if some of them are limited, like Gravekeeper Spy and that, just because of its search abilities, swarm abilities. The other card I've heard that's been causing a lot of problems that is used with the Gravekeepers is the Royal Tribute card. Just basically, when you've got Niku Valley in the field, play it and all monster cards in both hands are just discarded. Now, because this game is so focused on monster effects and monsters, mostly nowadays, it can be quite devastating for the opponent. Because most typical spells in that are used to destroy monsters and to protect themselves and to draw, mainly from my personal experience. So if you're left with a spell card that you can't really use, you're in trouble, or even trap cards, mind you. And so I would not be surprised if Royal Tribute is hit by the ban list. I'm guessing either semied or I'm guessing possibly more semied, in honest truth. But then again, I'm not too sure. Could be limited at as well because it is quite a devastating little card, but probably more likely semied, in honest truth. I don't see Niku Valley or anything else getting hit by the ban list because you can easily get around them because obviously we're running two Mystical Space Typhoon, there's 3 Dust Tornado, there's Cold Wave, what else? There's Raikou. There's quite a lot of destruction cards that can get around it, no problem. So, as I said, I think Royal Tribute and possibly Gravekeeper Spy, and maybe some of the new ones as well, depending, but I'm not too sure about that. They could be hit as well, but again, I don't know too much about them, so yeah, I have to wait and see. Any others?